The objective of this class is to explain as briefly as possible Jeremiah chapter 31. There's a very interesting expression over there, which he calls Bris Chadasha, a new covenant. What does that mean, a new covenant? Christians want to say that this refers to Jesus and the New Testament and all kinds of things, of changes that God will bring in the world, a new thing, etc., etc. However, there's a Jewish explanation of this expression, which is very simple, so to speak. First of all, the general theme of Yirmiyahu in this chapter is the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. This actually did not happen yet. So all the promises that Yirmiyahu talks about that they're going to happen in the days of Moshiach, in the days of Messiah, etc., in this chapter, actually, because the theme of the chapter did not actually happen, so the promises did not apply yet. They didn't happen yet. There are a few versions of how you actually count the verses. Verse 29, 30, he talks about something very interesting, which is not the subject of this class, but it's interesting to mention at least. He says, everyone shall die for their own sins. That means there's no such a thing as one guy comes and actually expires the sins of everybody else, and he's charged with the sins of everybody else. We're going to learn in a different class about Isaiah 53. But that's not the point right now. So let's go beyond. Yirmiyahu says in the next verse that days are coming. What does it mean days are coming? When Mashiach will come, when the Messiah that we're still waiting will come, and he's not going to come a second time, because there's no such a thing in the whole Bible, Torah, there's no such a thing of two comings of Mashiach. But whatever. Days are coming, says God, and I will actually will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehuda. This is what the text says. What is he talking about? And he continues. He says, not like the first covenant I made with your ancestors, when I took them out of Egypt, whatever, a covenant that they broke. That means God did not change any covenant, anything. The Jewish people, did not fulfill the covenant that God did, and that's why he continues saying, so I espoused them. What does it mean, espouse? God doesn't get married with anybody. So the idea behind this, our commentators explain that God kept his part of the covenant. The Jewish people did not keep it. Okay. And he continues, because this covenant that I will make. That means he did not make it yet. He will make it in the days of Mashiach with the house of Israel after days. That means in the days of the coming of Mashiach, I will put my teachings, Torah, says the verse. That means my Torah, my teachings, inside of them, in the innermost being, inscribe them upon their hearts. That means that something that today we don't have in our hearts, because we did not keep the covenant properly, God kept it, we didn't. That is going to be inside of us. With this, we're going to learn later when we read the commentary of the Ramban. We're going to see clearly what he's talking about. Now, what is this new covenant? What is Yirmiyahu talking about? First thing that we have to know is that it is one of the laws of prophecy that a prophet cannot change anything of the Torah. If the prophet comes and says, look, from now on, we can eat this thing that we were not able to eat before, we know already is a false prophet. Now, we know Yirmiyahu was a true prophet. That's why it's one of the books of prophecies. So he cannot come with a new covenant, a bris chadash, and say, look, God changed his mind. We're going to change some few things over here. No. So we already know this is not talking about something different than the Torah. The Torah is something that God gave a covenant. He kept it. It continues being exactly the same. We didn't keep it. Oh, so God is going to do something in a way that we're going to keep this in a natural way. This is what we're going to understand when we read the Ramban. This is what it means, a new covenant. That means something is going to change inside of us, because God is going to imprint, so to speak, carve inside of us the Torah in a way that is going to be a natural thing for us to keep. This is a new covenant, because we didn't keep his covenant. He kept his one. We didn't keep it, so he's going to do something that we keep it. In a way that we keep something that is already there. God doesn't change his mind. God doesn't change laws at all. Now, let's read the Ramban. He's going to say this in a very interesting way. Again, the Ramban lived in Spain, 13th century. He writes like this. This commentary is on a different verse in the Torah. This is in Deuteronomy 30. And the verse says, number 6, the verse says that God is going to circumcise our hearts and the hearts of our descendants to love God, etc. Now, what does that mean to circumcise the heart? Circumcise the part that is circumcised. We know what it means. You have to cut a piece of flesh, whatever. But what does it mean to circumcise the heart? So the Ramban explains in a very interesting way. I'm going to read it to you. You can find this also online. It's not, my translation is not important, and my English is not perfect. So I'm going to read these ideas to you. The Ramban says like this. Look, from the times of creation, God gave a human being free will. He can choose between good and bad. But in the days of Moshiach, what is Yirmiyahu talking about? And this verse, according to the Ramban, is talking about in Deuteronomy 30, then the choice is going to be a natural thing inside of us to choose for good. There's not going to be an inclination on a person to choose for bad. The heart is not going to want to choose bad things. This is what the circumcision of the heart is talking about over here. There's not going to be a desire for bad behaviors, so to speak. Now, let's go a little bit further. And he says like this, and this is what he's talking about in Yirmiyahu number 31, chapter 31. We're explaining, when the days comes, God says, I'm going to do a new covenant. What does that mean, a new covenant? This covenant is not like the one that had before, that you did not keep. God says, you didn't keep it. I'm going to do something different. When as he continues in the verses, I'm going to write it in your hearts. This, says the Ramban, means the complete annihilation of a bad inclination. There's not going to be a bad inclination. Actually, like other verses say, it's ruach hatuma avir min haaretz. God says the spirit of impurity, I'm going to just eradicate from the earth. This is exactly what the Ramban is talking about. He's explaining Yirmiyahu. Now, when you actually read it, you see it. You read the continuation of the verses. The Ramban says, I'm going to be their God. They're going to be my people. He's not talking about the whole world, the whole humanity. He's talking about the Jewish people. Yirmiyahu is talking about the Jewish people. And the Ramban continues. And this is the same thing that is written in Yechezkel. Yechezkel in chapter 36, verses 26, 27, he says, I will give you a new heart, a new spirit I'm going to put inside of you. And I'm going to do that you will fulfill my laws, says God. And this new heart is actually alluding exactly to this new nature that God is going to create, put inside of us to directly, naturally be inclined to choose for good, not for the bad. Now, this is what Yirmiyahu is talking about. What does it mean, a bris hadasha? Like new laws, different rules? There's no such a thing. God is not like a human being to change his mind. And this is not my words. This is actually the words of somebody non-Jew, Bilam. In Parshas Balak, you can find this in the Torah. God doesn't change his mind. So, what does that mean, a bris hadasha, a new covenant? We are going to have a natural inclination to keep God's laws.